Hello, everyone. Welcome to Perpetua's Growth Sessions. Last summer, we had a podcast series called Summer Sessions. It's summer no longer. It's February in Toronto. And now we are Growth Sessions. And on account of that, we have an exciting guest here today. We're here with Joe Rideout, president of Perpetua, with an exciting announcement this week about our company. Historically, our company's been known as Amazon advertising software. We are no longer just an Amazon-only company. We are announcing this week the evolution of our business into growth infrastructure for e-commerce. Super excited to have Joe Rideout on. Joe, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, look, it's not like we talk on a frequent basis, so it's good. It's good to get your view on things and tell the world what growth infrastructure of for e-commerce means. So Joe, why don't you tell us what it means?
Yeah. So I think infrastructure is a very deliberate choice of words. So what does infrastructure mean? Infrastructure is kind of the physical or organizational structures that you lay down in order to have the operation of an enterprise on top of that. So Adam, you and I were both from the tech world. If you look back at the history of tech, there's kind of a long history of the next generation of innovation being built on the previous generation of infrastructure or rails. This kind of goes back to even to the Industrial Revolution, when the first transcontinental railways were built in the US. This enabled huge stimulation and growth in iron and coal and manufacturing. All of a sudden, you could move resources to factories, you could move manufactured goods to individuals. Kind of going into the digital age, you have the personal computer and operating systems like Microsoft Windows that enabled this huge boom in software that was built on top of that. There's kind of this pattern that repeats where you have things that are extremely difficult to do and only the most sort of technically savvy companies are able to do it. And then infrastructure or platform is laid down and then it becomes commoditized and anybody can do it. Another great example of this is the cloud, like Amazon AWS. In my sort of early days when I was working at software companies, if you wanted to do a website or build a web application, you had to buy your own servers and put them in a data center. You had to rent physical rack space at a data center. So there was sort of a huge amount of time to invest, huge expenses just to kind of get going. Now, of course, with AWS, anyone that wants to start a website or an online software business can do so extremely easily. Over the last 15 years, I think this infrastructure for e-commerce generally has been laid down. Again, 15 years ago, if you wanted to sell something online, probably had to get your own website built, build your own checkout flows, might cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, anyone that wants to spend $29 a month can set up a Shopify store. $39 a month, you can become a professional Amazon seller and sell your products on the largest store in the world. So that barrier to entry to selling online is gone. And on top of that, we're seeing this new wave of innovators, these D2C brands, challenger brands. There's never been a time in history where it's been easier to create a product and sell it online. However, being online, starting that store, it's only the first step in a very long journey. I don't think Shopify discloses their churn numbers, but I've heard some people say it's somewhere around 70% of customers don't make it through that first year of business because it's not enough to just start a store. You have to grow that store. You have to go out, find the people that want your product, figure out how to acquire customers, hopefully in a sustainable way, and then scale up your business. So this is where the growth aspect comes in. Every company must grow, and growth is something that we believe, especially e-commerce growth, there isn't a platform yet. It hasn't been commoditized. The challenger brands or the D2C brands, some of the ones that are doing extremely well, it's because they have that deep sophistication and growth that they built internally. But this expertise is not available to all. It's spread out through different organizations. It's often trapped in silos. Big brands may have the budgets to hire the best agencies in the world or build the best performance marketing teams in the world, but not every new brand or new product that's being sold online will have access to that. So kind of a long background there, but what we're excited about as a company is a level of the playing field that we can provide by building this new platform, these new rails that will provide growth to that next generation of online brands and sellers.
Yeah, that's Joe, dropping the industrial revolution to e-commerce in 2021.
Start really early,
that is deep. That is really deep. And so we've been known as an Amazon only company for the past 3 years. Obviously, that's changing, and that has changed. Amazon is not all of e-commerce, though it's a significant amount of e-commerce. And bringing back and considering this new messaging around growth infrastructure for e-commerce and the evolution of our company, it's actually more aligned with how the company started. And I don't think a lot of people know the founding story of Perpetua. But Joe, you've been around since the very, very early days. Perhaps you can illuminate us with that.
Yeah, for sure. So, our messaging has been very Amazon focused. Our business has been very Amazon focused for the last few years. So it might surprise you to hear that when the company was started, we actually knew very little, almost nothing about the Amazon platform and Amazon advertising. There was kind of a bigger vision that the company was started around, and then through that, we found our way to the Amazon marketplace. Perpetua's founder, Roscoe Hill, he's a serial entrepreneur. He was a very early hire at Palantir, which is Peter Thiel's big data company. And then he went on to found a company called Blend.com, which is a digital lending platform. And Roscoe is also is an active angel investor, advises a lot of startups. And so when Roscoe was first starting Perpetua, I believe he had just finished helping Blend perhaps close their Series C or Series D financing. And if you have any familiarity with how venture-backed tech works, these later stages of funding, these Series C, Series Ds, are often referred to as growth capital. So when you're raising these rounds, you have a product in the market, you have people using your product, hopefully they're also paying for it, and hopefully you've found a way to acquire, a repeatable way to acquire customers. There's a value at which you can acquire customers. Let's call that your CAC or your cost of acquisition. And then you should have a good idea of what the lifetime value of those customers is, your LTV. And so if you understand those things well, you should be able to take this growth capital and put that towards acquiring more customers. And if your CAC, your cost of acquisition, is less than your LTV, then you're off to the races. The money goes in and the growth comes up. I think the sort of funny observation that Roscoe had, in sort of seeing these later stages of growth at Blend and at other companies that he'd been involved at, is that once you have all this growth capital, all sorts of companies and people come out of the woodwork with ideas on how you can spend that money to grow. And Roscoe kept finding himself in these conversations where people would say, okay, you want to grow? What's your budget? And Roscoe always found it was sort of a funny question to ask, what's your budget? Because, how much me as an owner of a company am willing to spend on something is really going to depend on the results that I believe that can drive. So for example, if I know predictably that I can spend, $1 on a growth mechanism, let's say $1 on ads, and pull out of that $2 in profitable sales, then really my budget should be unlimited because I'm printing money. And so there's kind of this feeling that in the market, there isn't a quantifiable, predictable formula for growth, that you couldn't find a repeatable way to put money in and get growth in the forms of new customers, new shoppers out. And Perpetua was originally designed to solve that problem, because if you could solve that problem, you could do all sorts of interesting things. You could decide, potentially what customers you should, or what kind of companies you could invest in, or what kind of companies should you start. And for someone like Roscoe, who's a serial entrepreneur, sort of being able to understand that engine for growth could be a powerful thing for many different purposes. The name Perpetua actually comes from this idea of the perpetual motion machine. So a perpetual motion machine, sort of this theoretical physics concept, of a machine that generates more energy than it uses to run. And so if you just let it go, it'll continue running forever. So the metaphor here is that if you can find a repeatable way to acquire new customers at a cost of acquisition that's less than their LTV, you can take all the profits from those sales, drive them back into acquiring more customers, and that process repeats forever. So essentially a perpetual growth machine. So that's where we started. Found our way to the Amazon marketplace. I think maybe the simplest way of describing it is that when we first discovered Amazon and the Amazon ad platform, it was the closest thing to that ideal around repeatable growth. That Amazon had this closed system where the ads were running and the sales were happening on the same platform. You could immediately see the impact and the ROI on those ads. Like, they were very effective for driving sales. And because it's a closed system, the reporting and the attribution was very tight. And so, if your ACOS is good and you were driving profitable sales, you could feed more money. And if your ACOS is bad, then you can rein things back.
And as many people know, Joe, sponsored product ads on Amazon 4 years ago were wildly effective.
Yes.
So that was a really good signal to dive into it, right?
Yep.
And so continuing on, the evolution of the company began with that. But we interestingly enough, we actually experimented with running a couple seller accounts on our own. And one of the early realizations that we saw in doing that was that, other media to Amazon, such as Google ads, was actually wildly effective. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, the early days of Perpetua was very experimental. I'd advise anyone starting a company, if you have the luxury of doing this, spend as much time trying to find that market, trying to find what works. So, there's some crazy stories from the early days, but we ran LinkedIn ads, we ran Pinterest ads. We were an affiliate for a while. And that's really how we discovered sponsored ads and how effective they were. But one of the things that we did to kind of immerse ourselves in the ecosystem once we discovered Amazon sponsored ads was to become a seller ourselves. So we created a seller account, sold a range of products. One of the products that turned out to be kind of one of the most impactful for us was a insecticide bed bug killer spray. And we were really trying to grow this product, trying to grow sales. And we ran into, I guess, a challenge. The sponsored ads were very efficient, but we ran into some challenges scaling out that spend. It felt like in the early days, there were kind of some checks and bounds, some breaks that Amazon had that even if you were at a low ACOS, you couldn't set budgets as high as you want. And we were just hitting limits of how much we could spend and how many sales we could drive with this product. And so kind of to get that Amazon flywheel going, to kind of get those initial sales, to start to boost our BSR, to start getting organic rank, we looked to off Amazon traffic. And so kind of very early on, I guess this would have been 3.5 years ago now, we had pretty significant spend on Google ads driving to an Amazon product detail page. And through that, we're able to generate pretty substantial growth for this product.
And surprise, surprise, Google ads work too.
Yes.
Google ads are wildly effective.
Yes.
Fun. And you spoke about growth infrastructure and how, not everyone has a performance marketing team with worlds of experience, and not everyone can hire the savviest media agency, but a lot of people find digital advertising very hard. And when it clicks, when you get it right, it can feel almost magical. It can feel like finding an oil well. Both you and I have founded our own companies and have leveraged digital advertising to acquire customers, and it's a really amazing feeling. And one of the things that I get really excited about every day is our mission for the company. Can you describe the mission of the company and how we try and engender that feeling with the way people use our product?
Yeah. So mission of the company is that we give superpowers to anyone that sells online. As I said at the beginning, it's never been an easier time, never been a better time to sell a product, to be a brand online. But the kind of multitude of things that you have to do to grow and have a successful business is only getting more and more complex every day. Oftentimes it feels like you might need a team of people supporting you, all the different things that you need to do, but oftentimes you don't have a team. To use maybe one customer example, one customer that was with us from the very early days is a company called Supercubes. There's a case study on our blog that you can read about. When they started with us, they were a 2-person husband and wife team. It's a side hustle for them, and we're only selling a few units a week. Their product is it's a sort of extra large 1-cup well ice cube tray for freezing soups, sauces, and broths. Has a lid, has a rigid silicone frame. It's a great way to preserve food. And so as a very small team, they were very passionate about their product, passionate about the brand, served a need in their life. They designed the product, they had it manufactured, but they didn't have the time or the bandwidth to focus on digital advertising, to become experts on all the nuances of how to use all of Amazon's different ad types, different targeting types, and then actually to have the time to go in and do those sort of manual optimizations and learning every day to drive good results. And so they look to Perpetua to run their Amazon ads. They become very successful. We help them drive a lot of growth. And they have a much larger company now. They were actually on Shark Tank last week.
Killed it on Shark Tank.
Yes.
Closed a massive deal.
Yes, I believe that was $400,000 investment on an $8 million valuation, which is pretty incredible. I think that's the perfect example of a company that has an amazing vision, an amazing product, an amazing brand, and didn't need to build out a full performance marketing team and able to drive that growth. They were able to leverage our software to automate a lot of the repeatable tasks that really humans shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, and it was super, super fun watching Michelle and Jake on Shark Tank. So Joe, we're now no longer an Amazon only company. Perpetua launched a second marketplace in Q4 of this past year. Can you tell us what that marketplace is and why we chose that one?
Yeah. So we are now live on Instacart. Instacart is our official second marketplace. It was almost a perfect storm of factors that led us to choosing to go live on Instacart. First, Instacart has seen absolutely incredible growth throughout the COVID pandemic. They were really prepared and kind of well positioned to take advantage of the shift in how people buy. I sometimes look to my mom as kind of a bellwether. Like if my mom is using a new piece of technology, then it must be close to going mainstream, or it probably has gone mainstream. So the fact that she's now buying all of her groceries on Instacart is kind of an early sign of the how well they've been able to penetrate the market. But there's data to back this up as well. I think Walmart was maybe a distant second in terms of growth of penetration of grocery delivery throughout the pandemic, but Instacart just really captured it. And as we've learned with Amazon, aligning yourself or kind of tying your cart to a company that's on an incredible growth trajectory is always a beneficial thing to do. So we wanted to align ourselves with their growth. Second, Instacart, although they have grown very fast, they are still a startup. They're a private company. We found that they innovate very fast. They're building APIs very fast, which is what allows us to build our software on top. And we found they've been very collaborative, willing to work with us on building new experiences. Another interesting thing is that there's a lot of Amazon DNA in the Instacart advertising team, which has led to a lot of similarities between the two platforms, which makes it very easy for us to take all the technology and strategies that we built for the Amazon marketplace and port them quite easily over to Instacart. And finally, Instacart works the best today for food brands, and we happen to have a very large portfolio of challenger food brands, due in no small part to a partnership that we have with an agency called Cartograph. And many of these brands were eager to get going with Instacart, so we had customers live from day one on the Instacart platform.
And it's not it. There's more to come. And without foreshadowing what's next for Perpetua, maybe you can tell us a bit more about how you see the retail media landscape at the moment, and how other retailers are looking to Instacart and to an Amazon as models for them to build their advertising business.
Yeah. So, before I dive into that, it's worth talking about the kind of profound impact that the pandemic has had on the e-commerce landscape. There's a graph that I'm sure many listeners have seen that shows e-commerce penetration in the US over the last 7 years or so. Kind of goes like this, gets to about 17%. And then within the span of 8 weeks at the start of the pandemic, it jumps up to 27%. So 20% of all retail sales in the US now are e-commerce sales. And so what's happening here is kind of a profound, $100 billion or more shift in how people buy and where people buy. So to say that again, the way in which people buy and where they go to buy is completely changing. It was already on that path, but it's been fast forwarded 3 or 4 years into the future. And I think everybody's aware of that. That's not a big surprise. But what we find interesting about it is that this, how people buy or where people buy problem or question has introduced this adjacent and we think equally big opportunity, which is the what to buy or what should I buy problem. Where you buy and how you buy very much influences what brands you choose, what products you choose. So in the past, if it was, having a Fifth Avenue retail location was one of the most important things to be the biggest brand in the world. Or people talk about in grocery stores the importance of having eye-level product placements or end caps. There's things like these slotting fees where grocery stores or brands would have to pay an incredible fees to grocery stores just to have their product stocked in those stores. This kind of battle that was happening in physical locations is now being replaced by a new battle, and that battle is happening on search result pages and product detail pages. And so the kind of billions of dollars that are going into influencing purchase decisions that shoppers make in physical stores are now going to purchase decisions that are made on those search result page, on those product detail pages. So what we're seeing now is these commerce companies, these marketplaces that were historically, marketplaces just for buying and selling, are now becoming media behemoths. So Amazon's ad business 6 or 7 years ago was virtually non-existent. You had to kind of work with them as a managed service. It wasn't brought up in their earnings. Now for Amazon, it's a $20 billion plus a year runway business. Amazon is now the third largest advertising platform in the US after Facebook and Google. And they've done that by building on the backs of their marketplace. They're also sitting on a treasure trove of shopper data. Amazon has the ability to peer into the wallets of its users. What are people buying? At what frequency are they buying? Are they buying the same brands? What subscriptions do they have? And that's extremely powerful for advertising targeting as well. So Amazon's kind of led the charge. They've laid out the blueprint for exactly what it looks like for a commerce company to become a media company. They've shown that a $20 billion a year business can be built out of that. And so now every other commerce company is looking and saying, hey, we can do the same thing. Walmart, I've heard, now has $1 billion ads business, but everybody is or is going to follow suit. And that's from, the Targets, the Krogers, all the way down to the smaller local business as well, whether it's Dollar General or everyone has the same opportunity, and the playbook has been laid out by Amazon.
Yeah, and I think one thing that everyone should definitely appreciate is a lot of these dollars are traditional shelf space dollars that brands are paying these retailers for. So one, it's a little bit of a reallocation of spend from the traditional shelf to the digital shelf. Sorry, it's a little tough to say that one for me. And some of it is incremental because it's a lot more scalable and it's a lot more measurable. So people are funneling more dollars into this sort of thing rather than traditional advertising budgets. And the other fun thing is media companies. So companies that you would traditionally think of just advertising companies are now getting into e-commerce. Everything is e-commerce, right? Everything e-commerce is infrastructure and everything is e-commerce. So Instagram is becoming a store. Google is building out their commerce capabilities. Joe, where should people place their bets? Is it on the retailers or is it on the media companies or is it both?
I definitely think it's both. There's a saying that I've heard. I don't know who to attribute this to, but that Amazon is where people go to buy, and Instagram is where people go to shop. So I think there's a lot of truth to that. In terms of new product searches, more than 50% of people that are searching for a product for the first time now do so on Amazon. They're not going to Google anymore. So when you kind of have when you're sort of in that mindset, you have a general idea of what you want to buy something, you have high intent, you go to Amazon. But I don't think Amazon is really a place where people go when they want that shopping experience, when they want to browse, when they want to be inspired. Maybe they don't know what they want. They want to discover something new. And I think that's where applications like Instagram, where you go to kind of discover new products, new brands, see what influencers are using. Pinterest is another great example, and they're investing heavily in their shopping arm as well. And then I think TikTok has exploded out of nowhere. We've seen phenomenal effects on some of our customers' products and brands when that product is featured and goes viral in a TikTok video. And so, the media companies are maybe coming out of the advantage of they have the attention, they have the time being spent in app, but they don't have the low friction buying. Whereas the commerce companies, they have the extremely sort of low friction add to cart, one-click checkout, next day shipping, but they don't have that attention. And so I think both companies are kind of trying to come at the other side with the strength that they have and trying to beef up the other side. So, for the commerce companies, it's building out that media arm. Amazon is trying to drive more in terms of shopping and discovery. They have a posts product in beta, which is kind of like a Instagram feed of lifestyle photos. You can follow brands. Amazon's doing a live streaming product, sort of live video where brands can show off and feature their products. And then, on the flip side, you've got the commerce company or the media companies are trying to build in native commerce integrations, sort of building in checkout flows, one-click purchases. So I think we're going to see, rapid innovation in both, and they're both going to do well. And so if you're a brand or if you're selling something online, your strategy should simply be to take full advantage of everything that's out there, of every opportunity for growth, and to be on the lookout for early mover advantages for these on these new platforms.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell people when they're thinking of where they should be allocating their dollars and how they should be thinking about this is you don't know where your potential customers are going to be, so you should be everywhere. Yes. Whether that be on Amazon, whether that be on traditional retailers, or whether that be experimenting with whatever Google shopping product will be, whatever Instagram's shopping product will be, and whatever the TikTok shop product would be. So long as you're ensuring that you're moving the needle on every new experimental commerce ad unit, people will be there. And people are becoming more and more comfortable putting their credit card in, putting their shipping information in, and the flow and the trust that Amazon has garnered is incredible. We see that in click-through rates. We see that in conversion rates being astronomically higher than many other mediums. But I feel as though as these other companies kind of catch up to Amazon, the ability to check out natively will be ubiquitous across the internet, and advertisers need to be everywhere. And we mentioned shop, the ability to shop. Let's talk about $shop. Obviously, everyone, Shopify is a super hot company right now. And when everyone thinks of e-commerce, Shopify and e-commerce go hand in hand. We haven't built a Shopify product. We're in their backyard. We know tons of people at Shopify. They're a stone throw away from our office. Why the focus on marketplaces and not building products for Shopify, Joe?
That's a good question. I think that we will. So it's certainly not something that we've ruled out. I think it goes down to, again, kind of early on where we saw the sort of greatest impact to be able to drive sales with advertising. As a company, started with what we felt was most effective. And when there's that closed loop of an advertising platform and a marketplace together in one place, it's the sort of most effective way to drive sales. I think we certainly in our customer base, there's many examples of where, click-through rate, conversion rate, sales being driven on Amazon are sort of much higher than on the e-com site or on the D2C site. And, although you say, Adam, I think over time, people will get more comfortable putting their credit cards into, third-party e-com sites. More and more people will have their credentials stored with Shop Pay, so they're not having to put them in again. There is still today, I think, a bit of a barrier to sort of checking out on D2C sites that's not there in the marketplaces, because the reality is on Amazon, some insane number of people insane number of people in the US are already Amazon customers, and sort of equally insane number are Amazon Prime customers. And so
almost half the households in the country are Prime members.
That's why we started there, but Shop is definitely something that's on our radar.
Fun. And it's not just about ads, right? Traditional pay-per-click advertising is all about, you pick ASINs, you pick keywords, and you bid on them. But as we've seen Amazon's advertising business grow, they've moved from bottom of funnel, high intent ads like search to mid funnel ads. And there seems to be a focus across Amazon of allowing advertisers to tell their brand story in unique ways that they weren't able to do so before. And one of the things that we've obviously realized is that same way that not everyone has an amazing performance marketing team, not everyone has an amazing in-house creative team. Making content that tells the story of your brand as best as possible can be very expensive. Can you talk a bit about how we're trying to solve that problem and some of the products and services that we've launched to help our advertisers do so?
Yeah. So, we've always believed that creative is an extremely important part of ad performance. We're a company that's powered by AI. So, we believe that there's aspects of advertising and optimizing campaigns that's not well suited to human beings, better suited to AI and computers. But creative is always one of these ones that, does seem best suited to human ingenuity. Now, you could imagine a future where AI is, fully generating ad copy, generating images, maybe even generating video. And there are some interesting experiments floating around on the web of research groups that are doing things like this. We don't think it's there yet, but we think that there is very clear examples of where software can help with the creative process. And so the first part is making creation as easy as possible. One example would be Sponsor Brands Video. It's a new video ad unit on Amazon. So not new now. It's been, I guess, around for over a year now. But when we first started working in that beta and building on it, we realized that the biggest point of friction that our customers were having going live with these video ads is they simply didn't have video content that was compliant with that ad format. So they maybe had some video clips running around, or video clips floating around, but it wasn't the correct length, maybe wasn't the right file format, didn't conform to Amazon's creative guidelines. And so just that friction of getting a video and being able to go live with his ad unit prevented a lot of people from running those ads when if they had been able to do so, they would have seen really good results. And so the first product that we built for Sponsor Brands Video was an automatic video creator where we pull creative from the product detail page, we pull product images, titles, and bullets. We have a set of themes or templates that have been custom designed for that ad unit, for that length, for that placement. And then with all of those creative assets, in less than a minute, we generate a video that we know is going to pass file format guidelines. We know it's going to pass creative guidelines. So I think step one is let's reduce the friction to generating creative. And that not only allows brands to go live, but it also makes it easier to test different creatives. So if you wanted to test a different image or a different headline or a different bullet, you can simply regenerate the video using that same theme, test different creative elements to it. So another aspect of our Sponsor Brand Video product is that for brands can request a custom branded template. So it's a template that sort of deeply has their branding, their colors, their fonts, but can be reused for different products, can change out different product images, can change out copy and so forth. So one, reduce the friction to creation, and then two is provide the reporting and the metrics to show what works. So the computers may not be able to generate those creatives, but we can compare, video variant 1 to video variant 2 and show what performs better. We sometimes think about this, this concept of, that your targeting should be in concordance with your creative. So, if you're targeting, let's say your branded keywords, one creative might perform better. If you're going after competitive keywords, there might be a different creative that performs better with that. These kind of experiments are difficult and cumbersome to run manually. So that's the kind of situation where you want software handling that for you to not necessarily create the creative, but test all the different variations and help you make an informed decision about which performs the best.
And we have a service as well. Do you want to talk about that service?
Yes. So we have Perpetua Creative Studios. We can, both for Sponsor Brands Video or for OTT ads, we can generate a live action video for you.
Fun. Very cool. Joe, is there anything that I haven't addressed that you'd like to get off your chest on this momentous occasion of Perpetua evolving to growth infrastructure for e-commerce?
No, I think you've covered everything, Adam. No, I just think, again, sort of to go back to my roots as a software engineer and someone that's followed technology for many years, I always just get excited about the sort of next wave of innovation that's enabled by this infrastructure and these platforms. As a consumer, I love to have choice. I love to have great products and great brands. And I think what this infrastructure for growth will enable the best brands, the best products in the world, wherever they are, whether it's a small husband and wife team in LA or anywhere in the world. We'll help them find that audience, find that growth, and that's something that I'm excited about.
Joe, we ended Summer Sessions, our previous podcast series, when we were only an Amazon company, with asking our guests to come up with one prediction for Amazon in 2021. And I'll expand the aperture now that this isn't just an Amazon story and ask you to come up with one prediction for e-commerce in 2021.
One prediction for e-commerce. Well, we've already touched touched on this, Adam, so maybe this is an easy prediction, but I think that the media companies, the Instagrams, the TikToks, even the Snapchats are going to be a force to be reckoned with in 2021. I think they're going to come hard with their own deeply integrated purchase flows, and something that we're all going to have to move on.
Anything that gets you spending more time on TikTok, huh?
Yes,
that's
me too well.
That's the name of the game. Yeah. The Amazon, TikTok, Costco, TikTok algo is just your catnip.
Exactly.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. And for all of our listeners, we are back with Growth Sessions. Please subscribe or follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. We will be coming with more guests to learn about how they can grow their e-commerce businesses in the coming months. Thanks again, Joe.
Thanks, Adam.